So the House of Commons just voted to delay Brexit, and it's looking more and more likely that Brexit either is not going to happen at all, or it's going to happen with no deal. Now, that may seem like an odd take, considering that the Parliament just voted down a no-deal Brexit about 2 days ago, but that was by a surprisingly slim margin. That was only by about 4 votes. So no-deal Brexit almost passed, and all along I've said that no-deal Brexit is really the only true Brexit. Because if you make, by definition, if you're making a deal with the EU to leave, you still have some kind of agreement that's binding you to the European Union, so you are still de facto connected. Unlike, say, the no-deal Declaration of Independence that the U.S. Had, separating it from Great Britain, there was no deal there. No Declaration of Independence can truly give you independence unless that declaration is unilateral. The UK, however, is afraid of the consequences of trying to decouple its legal system from that of the European Union, which, of course, is part of the reason why the European Union has such a complicated legal code, is so that once countries get bound up in it, it becomes like a web that they just can't untangle from themselves. Not only that, Juncker and the rest of the Eurocrats have no incentive to try and negotiate a deal with Britain because they're trying to make an example out of Britain to show every other European state that this is what you get for talking back to your masters. This is Brussels' way of showing all the people within the European Union who may want to go their own way, who maybe say, hey, I don't want to be ruled by a council of rootless cosmopolitans based in Brussels. No, for the Eurocrats, the best thing for them to do here is to not only drag out the Brexit process, but make sure that it's as painful for the British people as possible. They want to make it look like that Brexit led to some sort of great economic stress for the British people. That way, people in other parts of the European Union don't get any bit wrong ideas. The Eurocrats have a history of harassing their occupied peoples. In fact, the Netherlands and Ireland were forced to vote multiple times on different EU referendums until they essentially voted the way that the EU wanted them to. Every time that they voted down the measure, the EU made them vote again. And that is one of the goals that they have here in Britain. They want Britain to vote again on Brexit so that they vote not to do it. Because, of course, the process has been painful so far because the EU, the British leadership is incompetent and they don't want to leave. I mean, Theresa May was a Remainer, so she really has no interest in trying to get out of the European Union. And, of course, the Eurocrats who she's quote-unquote negotiating with really have no interest in helping her get out because she has said, hey, we're not going to leave without a deal. And so if she, has no intention of walking away from the table, she's going to take whatever they give her. So this process has been awful, and there's been a lot of fear-mongering. So probably, if this came up for a second referendum, Brexit would lose, which is exactly what the EU wants. The EU, really, I mean, it's kind of a strange, chaotic way of ruling people, but they want to create chaos and make people scared. These unelected Eurocrats like to rule by fear. So ultimately, Brexit has to happen with no deal. The British are just going to have to say we're leaving, period, and leave, or it's not going to happen at all. Because this whole deal-making process has always been a farce. And again, even if they had a deal, then they'd still be linked to the European Union. They would have the whole Irish backstop nonsense about how they would try to keep open the border between Northern Ireland and Republican Ireland. And of course, Republican Ireland is an EU country. So in order for that to happen, then essentially you would have to bring Northern Ireland under EU sovereignty, and then people going from Northern Ireland to Great Britain would have to essentially go through customs. So Northern Ireland, which is a part of the United Kingdom, but is not on the island of Great Britain, would essentially be hermetically sealed off from the rest of the kingdom. Another great advantage of not making a deal with the EU is that if you stay at all associated with the EU is very protectionist, and they don't like really imports from any country. They have very strict regulations on imports. They have a lot of tariffs. It really sucks to be a consumer in the European Union because you have very few options. They don't want you buying from companies outside of Europe. So if the British stay associated with the European Union and have to abide by all of their regulations and such, and if they kept a trade union with the EU, then that would defeat the whole purpose of Brexit as far as I'm concerned, because if you don't have control, if you're not able to trade with the rest of the world, what good does it do you to leave the European Union? Then you're just giving up your voting rights, so then you're giving up any chance of ever trying to change the European trade policy if you stay in the customs union, but you leave the EU overall. I think it's safe to say, though, that Theresa May will be remembered as one of the worst prime ministers of modern British history. Worse than Tony Blair? That's a good question. I mean, the Iraq War is remembered pretty negatively by the British. But, she's certainly not going to be remembered favorably by just about anyone. The Remoaners won't like her because, they see her as the leader of Brexit. And, of course, the Brexiteers won't like her because, one, she was a Remainer to begin with, and she's never really changed her heart. She's never shown, at least to my knowledge, any evidence that she really changed her opinion and actually wants to leave now. Yeah, so she loses really no matter what happens, unless she does a no-deal Brexit, in which case the Brexiteers, I think, will actually like her because she will have achieved what they thought she couldn't. But if you gained anything of value from this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and certainly clicking the subscribe button. I do upload every day. This is actually my second video today. I had a little extra time. I normally do one, though. But anyway, I'll see you all tomorrow.